Welcome back, Canonites. While I was at 343, I got to see a lot of cool stuff. But one thing that really stood out, and I'm allowed to talk about, was a presentation about the Halo array. On the surface, no pun intended, it may not sound like much, I certainly didn't think so, but there was more to it than I initially thought. Today we're going to talk about the Halos, and while it's not much, the new information I learned at 343, so sit back and enjoy this little crash course on the Halo rings. The earliest thing that could be called a Halo ring was a prototype introduced in Halo Shadow of Intent, a novella by Joseph Staten. The prototype was a ring of marbled onyx filled with complex circuitry that stood 10 meters tall. The power provided by the installation that held this ring gave it an effective range of 1,000 kilometers. A 20% increase in power would have allowed it to target all of Sung Helios and its moons, and further power increases could allow it to wipe out the life of an entire star system. Curiously, when this Halo was tested at its host installation, the test subjects seemed to completely disappear, leaving no trace particles. This would be a stark contrast from later rings which merely destroyed a target's nervous system. However, it is possible that this was a feature of the installation rather than the prototype ring itself. After years of testing and prototyping, the first Halo array was constructed at a massive installation known as the Greater Arc. The first array contained 12 rings, each 30,000 kilometers in diameter. They would fire a burst of energy that targeted and destroyed the nervous system of any life with even the most rudimentary notochord. Rather than firing omnidirectionally like the final array, these larger rings fired conically, a large cone of destructive energy ever expanding in diameter as it spread across space. When Omega Halo was activated near the end of the war, its blast managed to encompass the entire 14,000 light-year diameter of the Large Magellanic Cloud, or Path Chthona to the Forerunners, a satellite galaxy that orbits the Milky Way. These rings were made up of small sections that could be jettisoned if damaged. In the case of such an event, the ring would then reconfigure to a smaller size, allowing it to function if damage were sustained. They could also adjust their firing range, a feature absent on future rings. Another important feature of the Halos was as specimen storage. As the array would wipe out all life in the galaxy, a conservation measure was put in place. The Forerunners took samples of life found on hundreds of planets, indexing them and keeping them on the Halo rings and the Ark so life could be reseeded after the array fired. In addition, the rings would be used to study and store flood samples. Research was conducted for centuries looking for ways to improve anti-flood weaponry and looking for alternatives to the Halos. In the end, however, the rings would fire and samples of the flood would be kept on the rings that made up the final array. These samples were kept in the hopes that a cure might eventually be found. Unfortunately, these original rings had a crippling drawback. Their massive size made them incredibly difficult to move through slipspace, which became nearly impossible by the end of the Forerunner Flood War for such massive constructs. By the end of the war, only one of these original rings would survive. 10 would be destroyed during an assault on the Forerunner capital by the rampant Ancilla mendicant bias. One would escape this battle and retreat to the Greater Arc, becoming Omega Halo. Omega Halo itself was destroyed by precursor star roads in the final days of the Forerunner Flood War, along with the Greater Arc. The other surviving ring, a rogue ring under the control of Mendicant Bias, escaped the Battle of the Capital with heavy damage. It was eventually recaptured by the Didact, its damaged sections jettisoned, and the ring reconfigured to a 10,000 kilometer halo. This ring would become part of the final array. Internally, 343 refers to this original array as the senescent array, senescent basically meaning old. The second array, the one we know from the Halo games, began construction more than a millennia after the original array. Learning from the old, this array had its own arc, known as the Lesser Arc or Installation 00. Taking lessons learned from the senescent array, the new rings were made smaller at 10,000 kilometers in diameter, allowing them to more easily be transported across the galaxy. These rings also fired omnidirectionally, a giant sphere of destructive energy sweeping across space. Unlike the old array, they could not adjust their firing range, at least as far as we know. Originally, there were 6 rings constructed. The number for each ring indicated the order in which they were built. Installation 01 was first, Installation 02 second, and so on. The exception to this was Installation 07. Though built long before the other rings in the final array, it was the last to be added to the array's firing network, hence the designation 07. Along with a number, each ring was given a designation that indicated the firing order. In the final array, Installation 04 was Alpha Halo, 01 was Beta, 03 was Gamma, 05 was Delta, 02 was Epsilon, 06 was Kappa, and 07 was Zeta. When the array is activated, Alpha would be the first to fire. Its activation would trigger the next ring, and so on until the entire array was lit. Though each ring had a static firing range of 25,000 light-years, the overlapping radiation fields would amplify each other, resulting in a total range of 3 radii from galactic center, or over 30,000 light-years in diameter. Halo rings can also be activated independently from the rest of the array in what is known as a tactical pulse. As of the making of this video, 5 rings have appeared across the Halo games, with a 6th appearing in some media. The first of this is, of course, Installation 04 Alpha Halo. Monitored by 343 Guilty Spark, this ring appears in the first Halo game, Halo CE. At the conclusion of that game, the ring was destroyed when Spartan John 117 and the AI Cortana detonated the UNSC Pillar of Autumn's fusion engines in order to prevent it from firing, while destroying the Flood outbreak present. However, as this happened, the ring attempted an emergency slipspace jump. Only a fragment of the ring succeeded, hurled through slipspace and winding up in orbit around a red giant. This ring would be the source of great trouble for the UNSC in 2556, when a new element created in the Autumn's explosion was discovered and used in terrorist attacks on Cedra. The rest of Alpha Halo either fell into the gravity well of the gas giant Threshold, which it orbited, fell to Threshold's moon of Basis, or remained in a debris field between the 2 planetary bodies. The debris field is now monitored by a joint UNSC Swords of Sanghelios fleet, with neither side allowed to return to the fragmented ring's surface. The second ring we'll discuss is Installation 05 Delta Halo, which appeared in Halo 2. The ring was monitored by 2401 Penitent Tangent. Unfortunately, Tangent was lax in his responsibilities, eventually leading to an outbreak of the Flood and even the formation of a Gravemind. In the eons since, a sentinel wall was established around the library and environmental outbreak procedures were set up, containing the Flood to the library. When humanity and the Covenant discovered the ring in 2552, bringing their war to its surface, the Flood finally broke free of Sentinel containment. They would make their way to the Covenant holy city of High Charity and eventually to Installation 00, the Ark, where the outbreak was ultimately contained, for now at least. As for the ring itself, a good portion of its surface was glass to contain the Flood infection. Following the war, the UNSC established Lisbon Station near the ring to study it and prep it for decommissioning. Our third ring is, appropriately, Installation 00 Gamma Halo. Monitored by 049 Abject Testament, this ring appeared briefly in Halo 4 and more prominently in Halo Spartan Strike. Though the third ring introduced in the games, this was actually the second to be discovered by humanity. A freighter fleeing the Battle of Tribute in August of 2552 made a random slipspace jump, finding itself near Installation 03 when it finished its jump on October 8th, a full month before an Amber Clad discovered Delta Halo. Upon the freighter's return to Earth, Oni deployed teams to the installation, and Ivanov Station would be established and the ring studied. Curiously, the monitor was absent by the time of the UNSC's arrival. However, they would also discover another powerful Forerunner device, the Composer, a machine capable of converting a being into a digital essence. Installation 03 would be the site of a number of minor conflicts, following the Didact's awakening in late July of 2557. However, it was eventually taken by Monitor 859 Static Carillon to a location unknown. Most Halo rings are known to orbit a gas giant anchor planet, but Installation 03, at least by the time it was discovered by humanity, orbited a rocky planet that had recently had an impact with an unknown object. The debris of this impact orbited the planet and installation. Our fourth ring hasn't appeared in the games as of yet, but in the books Halo Primordium and Halo Hunters in the Dark. Installation 07 is the last remaining ring of the senescent array. Its damaged sections were stripped, reducing the ring to 10,000 kilometers in diameter, and it was networked into the final array. As it is the last ring to be added at this time, it was designated Installation 07. Towards the end of the Forerunner Flood War, this ring was the site of numerous horrible experiments on humans stored on the ring by Mendicant Bias and a Flood Gravemind known as the Primordial. When the ring was recaptured, the Flood infection that had spread was contained with time locks and the ring distributed into the galaxy. In November of 2553, Dr. Luther Manning discovered the location of Installation 07 by cross-referencing Forerunner architecture on Shield World 006, known to humanity as Trevelyan. By 2555, a full Oni team had set up camp on the ring, which was then flood-free and teeming with wildlife. Our fifth ring is the first replacement for Installation 04, known to most fans as Installation 04B thanks to the Halo Encyclopedia. However, it is formally designated as Installation 08, being the 8th ring of the new array. When Installation 04 was destroyed, a signal was sent out to the Ark, which immediately began construction on a new ring. Installation 08 was discovered by the joint human Sangheli forces that followed the Covenant to the Ark in 2552. The ring was lit to destroy the flood which had followed them to the Ark. However, as the ring was in an incomplete state, it destroyed itself during the firing, severely damaging the Ark in the process. Our final Halo is the one seen in Halo Wars 2, Installation 09. This ring was, once again, constructed as a replacement for Installation 04. After Installation 08 was destroyed and the Ark damaged, humanity eventually returned and began studying and repairing the Ark. At some point, the Ark began building a replacement Halo ring. In 2559, Installation 09 was launched by Professor Ellen Anders of the UNSC Spirit of Fire as part of a plan to re-establish contact with the UNSC. The ring was sent into slipspace headed for the original site of Installation 04, however it was intercepted by a Guardian. Both Installations 08 and 09, had they been properly networked and deployed, would have been designated as the new Alpha Halo. This array of 7 rings is known internally as the Neoteric Array, or basically New Array. The Neoteric Array is controlled by Installation 00, the Lesser Ark. In the Ark's control room can be seen holographic projections of the 7 current rings. While Installation 04 and 05 were up to date by the time of the Human Covenant War, the projections of Installations 01, 02, 03, 06, and 07 were extremely out of date. The images shown were a snapshot of what the rings had looked like at one time, but no longer accurately represented the installations. And there you go, a brief but hopefully informative look at the Halo rings with some special new information sprinkled within there. So, did you find this informative? And how do you feel about the shift from Installations 04B and 04C to 08 and 09? I've left a poll in this video, I believe at the top right, with 3 options. Vote and let me know what you prefer. And if you enjoy this video enough, I can make a follow-up diving deeper into how the rings work, the various systems present, and all that. Let me know. Thanks for watching as always, and until next time, this has been Halo Canon. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribing, and sharing it around. You are the reason I get to keep doing this, so thank you, profusely thank you.